Okay. Anybody out there looking or listening? We're on Facebook Live now on Pesach Sherbo, and Scotty's going to be sharing that tour for the nations. And any other place you want to share it to is okay with us. And we're going to now start our program, even though it's a few minutes early. We always have a pre-programmed program, and we chat a little bit before we get into the business of the day. So here we go. All right, guys, we can uh, let me get me online, I guess. On here, transition. There I am. And I guess they can see me on Facebook now. It takes a few minutes to get to Facebook, but it'll be there. All right. We're a little bit early, but Scotty Helton, co host, is here, and Tony Lamont is here from Arizona, right, Tony? I got that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And today is the 19th day of October in the year 2020. And this is Tour for the Nations live and direct from Sfat, Israel. And we are officially a yellow city. We moved up almost in the green now with our COVID cases. The hospital kind of emptied out. There's only about 10 or 11 people in the hospital. And we've got the infection rate down to under 4%. And it's doing good uh, here in our little part of the world. In the rest of Israel, there's still some pretty tough places. But overall, in Israel, the infection rate, they're doing a lot more testing, but the rate of positive people coming out of it is like between 3.5% and 4% now, which is about a normal thing for a virus. And those who get really sick, it's about 1%. So it's pretty good. Hello, Terry Hayes. How you doing?
Doing
Other
good.
co-host Terry did a beautiful job last week, and I appreciate it very much. I was a little under the weather last week. Did not have COVID. Had some kind of virus or flu, the doctor said, but it wasn't COVID. It hit me for about 36 hours, and I just slept most of the time with a high fever. And I finished with it, and it's over with. So I was very pleased with Hashem that I had a very short, but you know something, when you get to be the age I'm at, it takes you a little while to recover from something. I remember this happening a few times when I was younger. It never took me a week to recover, but you got to get your strength back, and it comes back slower at the age we're in. So, yeah, usually we have a lot more people in by now. I don't know what is going on tonight, but maybe there's no debate or anything tonight, right? Must be something on. Anyway, uh, we had an absolutely wonderful Bet Din court today we held with Rabbi Goldberg and Rabbi Natan, and about 15 people took the pledge. Maybe it was more, maybe it was 20. Quite a few from the USA, and I got to say, there were a surprising number of people from Texas came in. Also, two people from Tennessee. There was David Chadwick and another fellow, I think his name is Helio, from Chattanooga. So I guess it's people that you guys know up that way, maybe in the Chattanooga area.
Helio's on my friends list. We haven't met personally, but he sent me a message. He's in, I guess, considering conversion or something like that, and he wants to talk to me a little bit about the process and why I didn't finish it and stuff.
Good. Well, he was there and took the pledge very happily today.
That's good.
And uh, also from British Columbia, uh, there was a couple of women there. They're friends with Angelica that took it. So what's happening? What's happening? A group is growing. A group is growing, a group that knows one another and has interaction with one another. And that this is the whole goal of what we're doing, is to have that interaction, to have that friendliness, to have the coming together. And one of the big things is the women's groups that are starting. Shira, of course, at Tour for the Nations Women's Gathering. Her weekly group is getting a little bigger and a little bigger with people from all over the world. And it's pretty cool. And the people from Germany and from Lithuania and from Austria and from the USA, obviously, and from Peru are joining the group. Women, not, I shouldn't say people, it's women. And women are coming together so they can talk. You know, men need the freedom to have groups where they can learn amongst men and ask the kind of questions men would ask and things like that. The women need the same thing. They don't have to be worried about what a husband or a boyfriend is going to say if they happen to say something in a women's group that they need advice with or they want to talk about. And it's a wonderful thing, the way it's starting to grow and form as a united thing. Now, I noticed it's starting to line up essentially by language, which is obvious. You know, someone that speaks one of the different languages, and it's a pretty neat thing. So we're very happy that this is happening. This is what Shira and I have been working for years. And there are people that are searching us out and searching you guys out, which is really great. And starting to learn. The biggest thing that we have to learn, though, is staying united, not splitting up amongst other little tiny groups, because everything we're working for is the same goal. And if you find it better, you can understand better from one rabbi or another rabbi, that's okay. It's no big deal, but it shouldn't split you into groups. You can always learn from everybody. So we got to stay united, one group together, Jews and the Noahides together as what we call, I guess, you know, I can put a spiritual Israel. And what a thrill it was today to preside over a Bet Din with so many people. And before we opened up the English one, I understand there was one in another, I forget what language it was. It wasn't a language I know very well, probably some from the Philippines. And they had people taking the pledge there. And we have a group growing in we have a group growing. Hello, Paul Garcia. Good to see you. Come on in the room if you want. A group growing in Lithuania now. Young couple from Lithuania has started actually reaching out to people over Facebook. And when they see comments in groups, they will send a message to the people, and it's starting to grow there. And we're hoping it's going to start growing in many other countries, in many other cities and localities. It's what our Maker wants from us. He wants us to be all together and be one. So that's enough on that. This week, Scotty put up a very unusual, to me, it was an unusual short video about perspective. And I told him, I said, you know what? You came up with something that's called a hidush. You came up with something new that I have never heard taught before, but it fits right in, so it's okay to do that. Why is it okay sometimes to have something new? It's okay to have it because it gives people on the exact same subject, doesn't change the subject, doesn't change what the subject is saying, but it gives you a little bit clearer way to look at it. And this is what we need from everybody, not opinions. Opinions aren't worth anything, but the hidush, this new way of looking at something, is important. And I'm going to Scotty, I'm going to make a mess of it, but I'm going to do this quick little thing on the camera because I want to explain what it is. Maybe I better use a different page here now because I've written up on that page over there. Okay, here we go. This is the number 6, right? Everybody knows that until I go like this. And now what is it? It's the number 9. Now everybody knows this. Everybody knows it depends on what side you're looking at. But what Scotty added to this was, how do we know which was the intent of the author of what was written on the page? What was the intent of the author? Was it a 9 or was it a 6? And the very simple way that, and it was beautiful the way Scotty explained it. Look at the page. Here's the top of the page. The number 6 is written on it. Who in their right mind picks it up and writes the number upside down on a page? So we have to go back and keep turning it until we find how it was originally written, and then start looking for the intent of the author. This is a great way to look at things. And Scotty and Terry are working on a series on that for people, teaching people from other religions, not just Christianity, but basically Christianity, how to go back to the original text. And what was the original intent of the text? Now, how do you get the original intent from those that have studied it and know it already? You don't make up as you go along. And it was when I saw that, I was proud of Scotty. He came up with this hidush, this new way of looking at it. And it's okay to do that. It's okay if a person comes up with something new way to look at something, as long as it doesn't change what you're looking at. As long as it helps explain better what you're looking at. And that's okay. We can all do that. We can use parables, we can use examples, we can use stories, but it has to be done with the intent of the original writer. Now, I always go around the internet looking at different things that people write. And there's a guy there that, hang on, my door isn't closed and it keeps banging back and forth. There's a guy out there who's an artist, and he did a lot of artwork about Shem and Japhet and all the different people in the family of Shem. And he said he got interested in the Noahide section, and he said something very interesting. He said, so I started reading all about it. And you can tell by the artwork he does that he doesn't quite understand what he was reading. It actually shows in his artwork. If you were to look at it, you wouldn't put it together. Anybody that knows about Shem and Ever and all those things would never be able to put it together as belonging to that, other than it has little titles under the artwork. It's beautiful artwork, don't get me wrong, but you don't see the intent of the author reflected in there. And it's not even like it's a Picasso or something. It's just so off base. And I said, I wonder how he got this way. And then I realized he read. He didn't learn. He read. When we read something, we put our own interpretation into it. We decide what's going on. If you read a novel, if it's a historical novel, if it's science fiction, whatever it is, as you read it, you are putting your own spin on everything you read. It's forming pictures in your mind, and it's giving you an opinion and all that. There are people that are Trekkies out here, and there's Star Wars fans out here. And if you read the books, you're going to have something entirely different in your mind than when you turn it on and watch it on screen and see what the producers and the directors, everybody puts on screen. You may say, gee, I don't like that. It doesn't match up with what's in my head. I'll just stick with what I got. If you do that, then you're missing a lot of fun with Star Trek and with Star Wars and all the other I'm a science fiction buff myself. Uh, and there's also the horror writers. Everybody know who Stephen King is? He wrote books like Cujo and all kinds of really scary horror movies. And what made him scary? He, by his description of all these things that you are reading, by his description, you are making a picture in your head, and your picture is going to be a lot more scarier than his because you know what scares you more. So you generate in your head what you think is the scary stuff. So that's fine when you're talking about fiction books. But if you try to do it with the Word of God, you're distorting everything that God tried to do, say, and wants us to do, and how He wants us to live our lives. Totally distorting it. So we have to uh, um, make sure that we don't do that. And it's hard. Believe me, it's hard. We all have our opinions. We were taught things as we grew up, and we put them into the picture and use them to evaluate things. Look, I grew up a Reformed Jew. Now, Reformed Jews, a lot of people say aren't really Jews because they don't do anything Jewish. But I could have been totally secular, which I was not totally secular, but darn close to it. But my parents instilled in me a love for being Jewish and the pride of being Jewish. And I had my bar mitzvah, and I had all the other things I was supposed to have as I was growing up, although I never studied halakha, how to walk the path. That came later in life. But it kept me kind of on the path moving forward. So I was pretty happy about that, but it gave me the chance to investigate things, read it. I went through a whole section of my life where everything was about my opinion. Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. I'm smart enough to do that. And I was way off base. You know, Yom Kippur, one of the holiest days of the year, and one of the days that we fast and we pray. We just went through it. On Yom Kippur, I would take my guitar, go out into a field, and just compose music to God. And I said, I see, I'm doing my fasting, I'm doing my communication with God, but I never got in tune with what it was really all about. I did what I thought was right. And it was totally different than what the Creator wanted to do, or the Creator wanted us to do in the original writings of what He did. I had interpreted them. And that's not too good. But I've since learned, and I'm still learning because you don't learn all at once. And I had the unfortunate experience, or fortunate, of falling down, getting up, falling down, getting up, and making myself better for what I did. Let's see, Miriam Jacob and Andre Rivendale on Facebook. Good to see you guys. You know, one of the things I was talking about with a couple today, the husband loves snowboarding. Sally, good to see you, and congratulations, Sally. She was there today for the swearing in. She said, you know, my husband loves snowboarding, and I went with him, and I got up on the snowboard, and he said, oh, wait a minute. First thing I do is show you how to fall. She says, what do you mean? She says, well, you're going to fall. You should know how to fall so you don't break your wrist, you don't hurt an arm, you don't hurt an ankle. And so she learned, or took a little crash course in how to fall. And I remember years and years ago when I was involved in something else, one of the things they taught us was how to fall downstairs, how to fall off a ladder, how to fall from a little bit higher than just ground height. And to this day, that learning how to fall has saved me probably a few broken wrists and banged heads, because when you learn how to fall, you learn how to tuck and roll your body. You learn how to put your hands inside near your chest so you don't stick them out in front of you to break yourself from falling. You keep your head tucked down to your chest so it doesn't smack against whatever you're going to hit. Um, Matter of fact, I guess it was about 4 years ago. Shira, I missed a step coming out of our apartment where we used to live. I guess it was more than 4 years ago now. And I fell down a flight of stairs. And Shira got all upset. And I just stood up, brushed myself off, and said, "Okay, let's go." She said, "You're not hurt?" I said, "No, fortunately, I had some training on how to fall." And it becomes instinctive when you learn how to do it, how to get back up, not how to fall. So we have to know that on our journey with God, we're going to fall down. We're going to stumble. We're going to hit situations we don't know what to do, and we're going to do the wrong thing. We also have to know that it's okay. If we don't hit that situation, we don't learn how to get back up again. Also, we don't, if you're always walking in a safety zone, you're never pushing what you know. You're never pushing your learning. You're never pushing who you are. Oh, I'm just going to take this little walk down this little primrose path and smell the flowers and skip along, and I'm doing good. And I say, I didn't fall today. I did good. Oh, great. But where's the challenge in that? You know, it's okay to fall down. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay if you think a bad thought or something goofy happens to you. It's okay. It's a learning experience. And you have to remember that. You can't beat yourself up. You can't put yourself down. 7 times the righteous fall. That's what it says in, I don't remember the Proverbs or if it was in Proverbs. Okay. 7 times the righteous fall. That means Moses went through 10 tests. Remember, Abraham went through 10 tests. There are times when you fall, and there's times when you learn and you get back up and you keep going. It makes you a better, now don't go out and intentionally fall, but recognize when you do, and recognize it makes you a better person for who you are. It's something you can just pick yourself up and go forward, and you don't have to throw yourself down on your face and plead before God for forgiveness and, oh, please don't send me to a bad place and all that kind of stuff. You do not have to do that. God is our Father, and He's a loving Father, and He wants us nothing more than to learn how to do better. And we can't learn how to do better if we don't make a mistake. Look, one of the invention stories I like a lot is the Wright brothers and the first flight that they made. But I saw a movie version of it that somebody put together a long time ago, and it showed how many times they failed and fell and started to go up and fell down on the ground and broke something, the airplane that they were building and all that, until they got it right. But if they hadn't kept getting up and going, we wouldn't be flying across the world today. I mean, eventually we would have. Somebody would have found it. But the point is that we remember their name because they kept going forward. They didn't let anything stop them from getting to the truth, how to do it. And that's for you guys what it's all about. It's for me what it's all about. I have incidences every day where I say to myself, wait a minute, what did I do? Where did I slip up? What am I supposed to learn from what just happened in front of me? And it's almost every day. I want to give you an example. Sometimes it's for good and sometimes it's not. This was for good. This past Shabbat, a couple, some friends of ours, had their 40th wedding anniversary. And they have I think 4 kids and about close to 18 grandkids. It seems like they're having another grandkid every week. I don't know. But anyway, so they decided to have a Shabbat service at a friend's house who has a nice big outside yard where we could come and pray. The women got to stay inside in the air conditioning. We stayed outside in the heat. And we had a Torah scroll there. We did our whole service. And they're reading the Torah portion, Bereshit. And the Torah portion, Bereshit, is about Genesis up to Noah. And I'm just sitting off in a corner, minding my own business, following along in a book, the Torah portion. And I was around the corner from where the guy that was reading the Torah could see me. I was sitting there because there was a fan in that corner and it was pretty darn hot out. And I was letting the air flow on me. And I'm just there, sitting there minding my own business. And all of a sudden, I see this head. Now, I didn't know a lot of people there, including the guy who's what they call Baal Koreh, the guy who's reading the Torah for us. His head peeks around the corner of the building. He says, "Okay, your turn to come up for the Torah." There's 7 times somebody goes up to the Torah, says a blessing. They read a part of the Torah, and then you say the blessings, and you go on to the next guy. So everybody gets a participation to go up and stand in front of the Torah and actually read the words right out of the Torah. He sticks his head around and says, "Okay, you're up. Come on, it's your turn." So I just shrugged my shoulders. I got up. I went over to the Torah and I went through the blessings, and he's reading it. And I'm watching him read it. The last, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 verses of that particular part of Breshit. I don't remember, was it 34 and something? I just don't remember. But it talked about how mankind had gone astray and how God was going to destroy everything. But the very last sentence of what I read was, and Noah was a righteous man. And then we go to this week's Torah portion, which is Noah, all about Noah. But there was a separation there on Shabbat. Last sentence, Noah was a mighty man. And I actually started to weep a little bit. And when we got home, I told my wife, you know what? God reached out to us because of all the stuff I could have read out of the Torah, this is the line I got. And I'm the guy that works with people like you. And I'm so proud to work with you. I'm so happy that I can. And God is saying, okay, you're doing the right thing. You keep teaching about Noah, Noah, yeah. And it made me feel so good. And we both kind of really, really rejoiced in that. Hi, Marion. Marion, I guess is the way it's supposed to be. Marion, good to see you. And congratulations. She was also there today in the pledge.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome, and welcome. Now, what I'm saying here is, earlier in the day, or it was maybe the day before, I'd had a little thing where I kind of fell down. And here God was saying, okay, you fell down, but you're still doing a good job. I'll give you a little pat on the head and just keep on going. And it's such a nice feeling inside when that happens. So you do not have to be afraid of making a mistake. Do not ever be afraid of making a mistake. If you think what you're doing is the right thing, you can do it, but you should really check it first. But if you can't, you do it in a moment where you can't check it, then you find out it's wrong, then learn about it. And it's okay with God. The biggest problem we ever hit with God is intentionally doing wrong. When you finish studying all the Torah, you're going to find something very interesting. There is no sin offering for intentional wrong, only for unintentional wrong. So you can still get forgiven for intentional wrong, by the way. But I'm just saying there is no sin offering for it, like in the temple. What am I saying? If you start on your walk and you stumble and fall a little bit, don't give up. But that's where you need to be connected with a teacher. This is where you need to have someone you can go to and talk about it and get learning from. This is when you have to stop reading stuff and start learning, but learning through a guided, uh, uh, um, like you're doing a mountain trek through territory you don't know. You want a guide to walk you along so you have the least amount of problems, the least amount of time on the ground, falling down, going up the side of the mountain. And that's important. And you have to be able to know within yourself that it's okay for you to make a mistake. It's okay to admit you made a mistake, especially before God. It's okay when these things happen. You don't have to hang on to, oh, you know what I thought, yeah, but I think that's right, and da da da. It's because there is no such thing. There's only what God thinks is what is right or wrong. And we have the basis of it, and you're taught the basis of it. And if you go to, you take the 7 Noahide or universal commandments to all mankind, and if you go to Aish HaTorah, the website Aish, they have a listing, and if anybody wants them, just let me know. I'll send them along. Rabba Karpov, good to see you. Is there somebody named Australians there, Scotty? Okay, well, good to see you too. um, the They're on their website. They have a list of the 613, but they're broken down by category. What goes to the high temple, what goes to the Cohen, what goes to the Levites, what goes to the doctors, what goes to a warrior, which if you take the 7 universal laws that God gave us and go through the 613, there's a little exercise you can do. It takes a little time, but it helps you learn something. You go to the first of the 613 and you say, okay, where does this belong? Under what category of the 7 does it belong? And then you go to the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Some of them you will not find a category for because there is no category in the 7 universal laws for some particular things that all the world doesn't have to do. But there are some basic ones that everybody has to do. And it goes between about 180 and 240, depending on whether you are Jewish or not Jewish. But the Jews, we never do the 613. That's a misunderstanding. The 613, there are things that a woman does I can't do. But when my wife does it, I get credit for it. So it's like I did it. The Kohanim, the high priests and the Cohens, there's a list of things that they can do that I can't do. But when they do it, I get credit for it. The same with the Levites. The same with doctors and judges and everybody else. Today, as I acted on a judge in the court, I was fulfilling the mitzvah of the court, but I was doing it for all the other Jews who can't do it or don't want to do it. Some just don't want to do it, and some can't do it. But I'm fulfilling for them, not just for myself. It's not like, oh, what an honor for me to do this. I'm helping the rest of the people get an understanding of, yes, they're involved in this too. And what's going to happen in the very near future, I really, really am hoping the Noahide community is supposed to have their own Bet Din set up, their own court system set up to watch over the Noahides in the around the world and help codify and unify how they do things, because that's the way God likes it. That's why he gave us the Torah. Everything's codified and unified. And there will arise amongst you guys, not, okay, this is my group and this is my group and this is my group, which is going on out there right now, but there will arise among you men that you're going to, how did this whole thing get set up? Remember Jethro? He says to Moses, have the people elect leaders of 10s, leaders of 50s, leaders of 100s, leaders of 1,000s. They had to be elected. They had to be people of respected people in the community. It's not somebody that opens up a Facebook page and says, okay, now I'm a leader. It isn't somebody that opens up a Facebook group, says, I'm a leader. Or somebody gets some people together and says, okay, I'm a leader. It doesn't work that way. There's no self-appointed leaders. They has to be done in an elective type process. But how do people elect this is how when they come to somebody, and a lot of people start learning from somebody, they're electing him as a leader. And in the pledge, it says that you will follow the rabbis on the laws that Moses got at Mount Sinai. But that's only to a certain point. That's for learning. You guys are supposed to make the judicial decisions on how to do and what to do and when to do. You see, God didn't say do X, Y, Z and do it this way, that way, and the other way. There's only one thing in all the Torah, in all the writings. There's only one thing where he was very, very exacting how to do it, down to the smallest little letter. Does anybody know what that is? It was the tabernacle. It's the most exacting thing in all of Torah. And when you read about it, it says, and God told Moses for the people to do X, and then it says, and the people did X. And then the next thing, God told Moses to tell the people to do Y, and the people did Y. When you read that section, you'll see that the people did exactly what God told them to do. And it says that you will have a master craftsman oversee it all. And that's Betzalel and Oholiav, who is assistant. And what happens here is someone who, let's say I'm a dyer of wool, and I take the wool to dye crimson, and I bring it to them and says, look at this beautiful work I did. But I'd never dyed wool before. And I said, I feel like doing this for God, so I'm going to go do it. And I bring this wool to Oholiav, and he looks at it and says, what is this? I said, I dyed some wool. He said, you dyed some wool. Is that what you do? You know all the little tricks and secrets how to do it properly? And I say, no, I just decided I want to dye some wool. He says, take it back and do whatever you want with it. But this isn't what God wants. God asks for people who are masters in each thing they did to do the stuff for the tabernacle. And only one person could do the gold work, and that was Betzalel. So we can't just decide what we think we want to do for God and say, oh, look, God, look what I'm doing. Isn't this nice? Isn't this great? I'm doing it for you, God. And he looks down at it and says, huh? That's what I created you for, to bring me a half-baked, dyed piece of wool? Go ahead, Terry.
This last week on Wednesday night, I wasn't going to get into it, but it just kind of fell into it. One of the things I'm learning from Rabbi Hirsch in study of Genesis 6:11 through 13, it also, he brings in Genesis 1:11 and 12 about God telling the earth to bring forth the vegetation and the seed bearing plants all after their kind. And he shares that all of those plants and all those animals that came forth after their kind, that's how they were created. They had no choice. They were given this. And he said they were given an assignment. I mean, I really love how he put it. They're given an assignment. And he brings in, he says, then man's brought into it. He has free choice to look at this and find his assignment. And he actually brings out, he says, Israel has an assignment and the non-Jews have an assignment. And I just like how he brings out what you're saying there. we have an assignment, and he gets into talking. I hadn't got into it completely yet on the laws of mixing, but you have so many that has this assignment and this other has an assignment, and they like what they're seeing over here, and they're trying to mix, and it messes up the assignment.
Exactly.
And that's what you're sharing. I'm loving what you're, and that's what I've been learning this week from Rabbi Hirsch. And is I don't need to mix my assignment. I need to know my assignment. Like you're saying,
Exactly.
don't, each one was said you had to do this, and then you would bring it to the leader. Was this what you did? Well, no, this is what I wanted to do. No, you need to go do what you were told to do and then come back. And that's exactly what I've been going through all week long. Just had to share
That's
that.
this we have free choice to do what we want. And of course, we always think the grass is greener over there. Man, look at that. This person gets so much kudos and hand clapping for what they're doing. I'm going to go do that. Well, you might get boos for what you do because the other person was assigned and he's getting a good reaction and you aren't. This is a very important thing to learn. Just because I decide I want to do this doesn't mean you're supposed to do it. Do you know? And there's a story that's been told and retold and retold, and I've probably told it before. There's a guy in town who was a bread baker, and he baked really good bread, and everybody loved his bread. And he'd been doing it for years. And one day somebody came through town and says, "Ah, Moshe, good to see you. Where's your store?" And he says, "I'm standing in it. I'm making bread." And he was a good bread maker. And this guy says to him, "Moshe, you were the best diamond grader that the world has ever seen. When you were in the diamond market, everybody knew that the diamonds they were buying were good, and they knew the character of them, and they knew what they should pay for them. What are you doing baking bread?" He says, "I just got tired of doing the other thing. I decided to become a baker of bread." And the other guy says to him, he says, Moshe, it's great that you love to do it. It's great that you're good at it, but that's not what God made you to do. He made you to be that diamond grader so you could help other people. He made you to be that diamond, not to satisfy what you want to do, but to help other people so that when they bought a diamond, they could understand the value of it and they knew that they were getting fair price and paying a fair price. So what are you doing? And about a month later, Moshe closed up his bakery and went back to his diamond shop. God considers it wrong, no matter how good we are at something else, if we're not doing what we are created to do. You see, each of us, each human being is created with a purpose. We all have the same purpose. What is that purpose? To help God in the creation of the world. And we all have our choice, not our assigned task on how to help God. We can choose to do it good or not good or whatever it is. We do have free choice. And he's not, if we don't do it, he's not going to force us. But some way he's going to let you know you shouldn't be doing what you're doing over here. You should be going over there. And you need to allow God to do that with you because then you are fulfilling what he wants from you in creation. People think, oh man, God created the whole world in 6 days and then he rested so the world was complete. Well, you're wrong. That's not what it says in Torah. He completed what he was going to complete in creation. But on the seventh day, when he rested, it was turned over to us to finish the job of creation, to finish everything, put the finishing touches on. We can't create something from nothing. He can. So he created everything for us and said, okay, now finish the job. Take it where it's supposed to go. And here's a book. It'll help you out. It'll show you things. Take it where it's supposed to go. And we think, oh, wow, he created and finished all of creation. And man, we're just going to play our games out here in creation and do whatever we want to do. It's not the case. It's not the case. Look, sometimes it takes you 30 and 40 and 50 years to get on to what it's you're supposed to do. Sometimes it takes less. Sometimes it takes more. It took me 50 years to get on to what I was supposed to do, which is teach people who are not Jewish. That's a long time. And I told God, why couldn't you, why couldn't I have waken up earlier? What happened? And I used to complain to him about it. And then one day I realized there's nothing to complain about. I'm doing it exactly when I'm supposed to be doing it. That's when I was supposed to start doing it. And there are people in this room that have waited 10 and 15 and 20 and 30 years to get onto the final proper path to help other people help God complete the creation of the world. Scotty, do you want to say something?
I did. I wanted to ask you a question, Rabbi Pesach.
Mhm.
If I'm pronouncing the name right, May Ryan posted, said, how do we learn our assignment? And I just want to add to that question. Um, a lot of people that I talk to feel like, okay, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to be in my assignment. And in fact, what you just said, sometimes you go through good and bad parts of life in the training to get you to your assignment. But when you move into that finally, how do you, what is the mindset that happens when you know you're and you may not even be in it fully. You may, I'm just adding to this.
Right.
You may not even be into yours fully. It's still growing, but you know you're in the path of the assignment. So can you elaborate on that?
What a great question. I wish I had a great answer. I didn't find out till after I'd been doing it and went through some ups and downs and bumping my head and getting a bloody forehead and all kinds of stuff, figuratively speaking, until I realized this was my assignment. The whole idea of everything here is keeping yourself and your mind totally open. Don't get to the point where, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do, and focus your mind on a little dot and not look at the whole big picture around it. We have to, if we feel an urging to go a certain way, and look, it's not like, I'm sorry I'm saying it this way because it sounds negative, but it's a way of thinking I'm talking about. Christians will say, well, I know what my mission is. I'm going to go feed the poor. I'm going to help the drug addict. I'm going to go build homes in South America. Or I'm going to do this or that. That stuff is part of being a good human being. That's not a mission. That's not what you're doing. You're just helping, you're being what God wants all of us to be, kind and merciful and compassionate to all other people. So yeah, oh yeah, I'm going to get all the drug addicts off the street, or I'm going to get all the whatever, all the drunks, and I'm going to start AA and this and that and the other thing. That's good. You're helping people, and that's compassion, and it's what God wants us to do. He wants us to help one another when we're in trouble and when we're down. Everything starts with everybody's assignment starts in the same way. Shema, listen to me, my children. Listen, Israel. I'm the Lord your God. Know who I am. Walk with me. Let's go for a walk. And you start walking his way of life. And as you start walking his way of life and learning it, you're going to learn different things along the way. And it could be, and this is in the way of a parable from the Jewish side, a person can live 70 years before he actually accomplishes what God wanted him to accomplish. You know what it could have been? To save the life of one person. You could have been born just to save the life of one person. In other words, something you said to that person. Each one of you sitting there now has someone in your life that has said something to you 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago that you still remember and had an influence on your life. And that may have been your whole reason for your birth, and it's okay. The other part is to help God finish completing creation. It's walking with him, doing what he wants, letting other people see by example that you're walking with him and doing what God wants. and maybe it leads somebody else to do the same thing. So not all missions are the same, and not all of them are big deals. Like, oh man, look at this guy up on stage in front of 10,000 people. What was his name? Bunky, Honky, the German guy that used to do it down in Africa, the big missions. I don't remember. I'm not making fun of him. He got, like 50,000 people in front of him at one time. We all don't have to be like that. We don't have to be rock and roll stars. We all don't have to be presidents of countries. We have to take our part of the world that is around us and make it and perfect it as best we can for God. That's where we have the things to do. And as you, Marianne, as you learn more, and especially, your picture's not up there, but I'm trying to remember today. I think you're woman. I think get involved with Rebitz and Shira at Tour for the Nations Women's Group. Zechia, and I found out today I'm pronouncing her name wrong, and I don't remember how you pronounce it yourself, Zechia. But I'm sorry. I apologize. Get together once a week with them and listen to them. The woman's role in the world is a lot bigger than any woman ever thought it was. Because the woman, there's a whole teaching about women, and it's different from the Christian and Muslim teachings about women. The Jewish teachings about women give them their rightful place, although people don't see it because they're so used to thinking in the critical way of the Muslims and the Christians. The women are the backbone of everything. In Genesis, it said that it wasn't good that Adam was alone, that he needed a helpmate. Now, the word helpmate is a sorry translation for the word used in Hebrew. It is something kinegdo, in front of the man's face, that was always in the man's face, that helped the man reflect back on himself and make himself better. And it's a whole big teaching, which I can't get into right now because I don't remember all the exacts of it. Shira does. Marianne, if you want to get a hold of Rebitz and Shira, she'll tell you all about it. I think her last teaching might have been about that this past Saturday night. And they have a Zoom room on Saturday nights also around 9:30, 2:30 in the afternoon, USA time, New York time. And you try to come in. Oh, good. Yeah, you should get in there. So each one of us, without having to go into deep studies, without having to dig around through the deeper and deeper Hebraic teachings, you have to live your life. You have to learn the basics of your life, the 7 universal laws for all mankind, and start walking that life. And as you walk it, more and more things are going to open up to you. You're going to understand more. And you're going to start off with, and the only way I know how to explain this is when you come out of your house or out of your apartment building, wherever you live, at ground level, you're seeing what's going on right around the front door. And it's a very pointed, small view of what's going on wherever you are. Little teeny small view. But as you go up each floor or you go up on the roof of the house and you look down, you get a different view. It's a bigger view. It's a broader view. It's more of an understanding view of everything that's going on around you. So don't limit yourself to these little tiny, well, this is the way it is, that type of thing. You have to back up and see it all. And as you see it all, it's going to make sense to you even more. It doesn't it doesn't make more sense the more focused in you get, unless it's something so teeny you can't see it, like a germ, and you put it under a microscope. But even if you put a germ under a microscope, or a COVID under a microscope, and look at it, what does it give you? It gives you this little squirmy thing down there that looks like a strawberry or something. What understanding do you get from it? Nothing. How do you get the understanding of it? By backing off, seeing what it is in the body, seeing where it goes in the body, see what it does to the body, getting a huge view. That little tiny view you're looking at doesn't do anything. It's just a focused, okay, well, what a pretty little thing under the microscope. So we need to always remember, we have to look at the whole thing, and we always have to remember something else. If you're looking at it like this, there's also this side. Just because you're looking like this doesn't mean it's the correct way to look at it. Maybe this is the correct way. Maybe this way is the correct way. Or maybe all of them are correct. So don't limit yourself. Don't close yourself in. Don't be the kind of person that says, well, this is what it is, and this is, I don't care, you can't tell me nothing. Well, I think this and I think that. Back off of that. Just back off of that and learn. Let it flow into you like water. Let it fill you up. The minute you put a stopper in it and don't let any more in, you're the one that's going to go thirsty. Nobody else, just you. And you want to be thirsty. But you have to be thirsty. Look, if you're out walking down the street and you're thirsty and you come to a puddle of water, you're going to reach down and drink it? Sure, it's water. Sure, it'll quench your thirst. You don't know what's in that water. You don't know what's going on with it. You go to a source that gives you clean water. You go to a source that you know the water is good and clean and pure. And then you drink from there. And that's what the Torah is. The Torah is life. It waters the world. It waters you. It waters me. It flows down from heaven like rain. And you know what? Like rain, it ain't coming down unless we draw it down. You think rain is a phenomenon of God? No, it's a phenomenon of man. Terry's just reading about the fruits and everything that was on the earth, but they weren't blossoming yet. They got some dew to cover them. Just like every morning I go outside here in Israel, the top of the car is wet. It's covered with dew everywhere. But the rains don't come and didn't come in creation until they were prayed for and ask of God for the rain to come. We drew it down from heaven, from the upper waters. We drew down the rain. That's what we do with Torah. We draw it down to us. We bring a little bit Svi Freeman likes to say, drawing down a little heaven, bringing it down to earth. It's something we actually do. It's a physical thing to help God, to help God complete the world. And the more we can get the waters of Torah flowing down in the world, the better off it is. And there's never too much waters from Torah, ever, ever. And here, we just started 2 weeks ago, right at the end of Sukkot, praying for rain again. We do it every season. At the end of Sukkot, we stop saying, well, thanks for giving us dew all summer long. We say, okay, God, it's time for the rain. And we start praying for the rain. Because if we don't, we're not going to get it. So this is his land. What happens other places, I don't know, hurricanes and tornadoes and all that stuff. I don't know about that. I just know about Torah and God's watering of the earth. So you want to be the kind of person that's constantly drawing Torah down to the earth so that other people can drink from it. And how do they drink from it? By how you act, by how you share, by how you react to things, how you walk your life. And they see how you're doing it. Wow, give me a little drink of that water. Looks like it's working pretty good. And that's what we need to do. Okay, sorry I got way off on that, Scotty, but I think I got the question answered. What do you think? Okay.
I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Look, uh, it's kind of weird, but there's a phenomenon starting out there on Facebook with Noahides, and I'm asking you, please don't get involved with it. And I'm not going to mention the names of the groups. Hopefully, some of the leaders of the groups will hear what I'm about to say. There are a few groups out there that I've been asked not to post or put teachings in anymore, because we don't listen to you as a rabbi. We listen to Rabbi X as a rabbi. This is carrying your emotional baggage from the last place you lived into the new place you're living. Don't bring that mold here. Don't bring that rot here. Every single rabbi out there teaching, whether they're teaching like a Pentecostal, like some of them do, and some of you guys know who I'm talking about. There's a few of them out there, or they're preaching end times, or they're preaching Baptist style, whatever. It's okay. You can listen to everybody because we're all drinking the same water. We're all drinking the same water. Your only gauge should be on whether you listen to somebody is how they treat other people. If they're going to knock people and knock other teachers, they're not the teacher to be listening to. Oh, I'm warning you, don't listen to this person, don't listen to that person. Truth always comes out. So there's no reason to warn anybody about anybody. When you start learning and start walking, what happens when you hear something that isn't quite the truth? Your ears hurt. Your ears hurt. You get a funny smell in your nose. That's all the way I know how to put it. But I don't have to tell anybody, don't do this, don't do that. I only have to tell you is if they are going and talking against somebody else, they're violating a Torah principle. Hello, Gloria. Good to see you. They're violating a Torah principle, and you shouldn't do it. Other than that, listen to what people have to say. You can listen if it fits in with, if you think you can understand at the point where they are in their teachings, and you can get something good for it, but do not listen to the critical stuff. There's no reason to. We're not critics. We're God's helpers. We're builders. We don't have to be critical of anything. We just have to build the proper way. And we don't have to warn anybody about, oh, don't listen to this rabbi or that rabbi, or don't go, which is different than, hey, don't go to that store because I know when you buy something from him, and if you have a problem, he's not going to stand behind the product that you brought. That's something different. So anyway, just keep on moving forward. Keep on watering everything around you with God's water from heaven. And it's all the same for all of us. There's nothing different between the water that I drink and you guys drink, a Jew drinks or a non-Jew drinks. And there's a very interesting thing that God says in the prophecies. There's going to come a time when all nations will come before him during Sukkot, this holiday we just finished. It's the holiday where actual sacrifices are given for all the 70 nations. And God says, you will come before me, and those who do not present themselves before me. Now understand something. He doesn't mean that every single person on earth is going to come to Jerusalem at one time, although he could make it happen if he wanted. People that are pregnant, women that are pregnant, guys that can't get off work. But he's saying every nation will stand represented in front of me. So you want to be part of a nation that is sending their representatives before God. And then he says, those of you that don't send representatives, I will not send you rain. You can pray for it all you want, you ain't getting it. What is he telling us? What he's saying is, can we live without water? Can our crops live without water, without rain? He's essentially telling you got a death sentence. You've chosen death and not life, like he talks about in Deuteronomy. All the connections are there, all the points are there. We just have to learn it and know it and be aware of it at all times. That's the most important thing. And that each of us have to do that in our own lives. We don't have to be looking at anything else right now than our own lives. You know, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm just going to throw it in there real quick. The whole world is talking about wearing masks. Here in Sfat, I said this at the beginning of the program, we were a red zone in Israel. I mean, they were just jumping from one to another. Hospital was full. Everything was just, everybody was just taxed to the very max. And the mayor said, look, come on, folks, let's get together on this. Let's get rid of this red zone that is here on the side of the mountain. It took us a month, and everybody, almost everybody, pitching in and doing what Mayor Shuki Ohana said. We're down to one of the lowest infection rates in Israel right now. Our hospital down the street, Ziv Hospital, is almost empty with corona people. And we're opening things up again. We're opening stores, we're opening schools, we're opening places of worship, we're opening places of gathering. Restaurants are starting to open again, at least for takeaway. And I think next week they'll start doing it for you can go into the restaurants again. But it took everybody working together, no matter what they thought about putting the mask on, they just did it because it was the way it was supposed to be done, and it worked. And right across over here, I have a synagogue that's right out that window that I go and pray to. Sometimes they've been praying outside, and they don't let anybody sit down to pray if they don't have a mask on. And these guys were toughies. They said, no, we ain't wearing masks. Across the street is the synagogue, the Chabad synagogue, and we had a very unpleasant happening during Sukkot, where we had to actually physically block somebody from coming in because they refused to put a mask on. You ain't going to tell me I got to wear a mask. So we said, yeah, but we can tell you get out and stay out. And he wouldn't stay out. So we had to actually physically lock the door to keep him from coming back in. When somebody else wanted to come in, they knocked on the door. We let the other person in, and the other guy, we kept him outside. But Baruch Hashem, nobody in the congregation ended up in the hospital with COVID. And during Sukkot, you do a lot of praying together. You do a lot of walking around together. You shaking the branches and jumping up and down in front of people and all that kind of stuff and doing your dancing. And God, we stayed safe. So what we have to do, each and every one of us, is say, oh yeah, I really, you know what, this goes against my grain. I don't want to do this. Da 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 da. And I'm not going to do it. And you decide not to do it. You're just putting yourself on the outside away from God. You're putting a barrier in your walk. I used to say to people, they'd say something to me, I said, don't think about it. Just don't think. And Shira, Rebbetzin Shira would get upset with me and say, what do you mean you can't tell people not to think? And I said, well, yeah, about that subject I can. Because we're not supposed to think about it. We're just supposed to do it. And I really never found a better way to put it than just don't think. But every time I hear somebody say something about God's word, and when I used to go and talk to people about the Torah in front of churches, and somebody say, well, how do you interpret this verse or that verse? And I'd open my Tanakh to that verse. And I'd say, now, it's not the way I interpret it, understand. This is the way God says it is. And I'd read it, and I'd read the explanation from Rashi or from one of the other sages. And that person would say, well, I don't agree with you. I think it's this way. So we'll just have to agree to disagree. Like, boy, I think something's so important. You just don't understand that it doesn't mean anything. It makes them feel good to say it in front of a group of people, but it doesn't mean anything. Only what God says means something. Amen. All right. Uh, anyway, anything else anybody want to talk about this morning, or anybody have something to say or share? Wow. Okay. We'll have a little short program today. Don't forget to join us on Wednesday night, USA time, 8 o'clock New York time, on the Noahide World Center channel for another class. And if anybody needs to get a hold of myself or Rose and Shira, personally, do it through Messenger or any way you can. Just get a hold of us, and we'll get back to you and see how we can help you out. And yeah, the class will be on. It'll be on Facebook, and it'll be on YouTube, and it'll be in a Zoom room like this. Terry posts the invitation, so you can come into a room. You can come into this room on Wednesday night also. It's not the same link, but Terry always posts it the day before in B'nai Noah Connection with Israel, and and I pick it up and put it on other places, on my Facebook page and so forth. So watch for it, and you may join us. And those of you that are joining us on Facebook, I know it's like easier on Facebook, but we'd like to see your faces and come on in. Go ahead, Terry.
Uh, just a quick reminder, and I've been discussing it with Scotty. The first 2, possibly 3 weeks of November, I will not be here. I'm in the process of moving. So Scotty's going to be helping us out during that time. So in about 2 weeks, I'm going to have to I'm going to be packing up my computer and shutting everything down and moving.
And we're so excited for you. We will be so happy to see you turn on in the new place. And
as you can see, my green screen's down. I spent the last 2 days packing my study. I'm about 99% packed and ready to start loading up the study when we start. Now we got to start the rest of the apartment, packing it up. And
you know what?
It's echoing in here because I've got all my books now, 3 bookcases in boxes.
That's true. The room does echo, and it makes a big difference in the room if you don't have something on the walls and something clean. But we are so happy for you guys, and we wish you just blessings in your new home, and health and parnasa and everything that goes along with that. But I tell you what, I bless you in the move, because I hate moving.
Oh, we hate it too. We're hiring movers this time. We're going to move quite a few of the small stuff and what we consider our prize, more, like the dishes. And I'm moving all my books. I don't want nobody handling my books and dropping them. I got a lot of money tied up in them. But then the movers are going to come in and handle the furniture.
Yeah. That's what Sharon and I did when we moved up here. I don't ever want to have to do another move in my life.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for, is that this is our last move, unless Shem sends us somewhere, definitely not locally, but like to Israel or Colorado, Montana with a fishing pole.
I got to you mentioned fishing pole. When I came back here to Israel in the early 90s, I brought fishing equipment and never got to use it. And so I bought some of the stuff that they sell here, like bamboo poles and stuff like that. Never had a really nice, fun fishing trip because there was no trout, no bass in the here. And when you go out on the Mediterranean, depending on the time of year, there's basically just small fish up near the where you fish from the rocks and stuff. And you have to go out about a third of a mile, scuba dive about a third of a mile out and find rocks that you can go under and spearfish and get, grouper and things like that. So I just gave that up. Still, but you know what? There's bass and trout in the Jordan River now, and in the Dan River. because they had farms up the top near the riverhead and they escaped out. And somebody told me that he actually fly fishing caught a trout here in Israel.
Wow.
Something
Well,
new.
this where we're moving to, we're going to be walking distance to Chickamauga Lake.
Oh, wow.
So I've never got to live that close. It's a pretty good sized lake. Well, it's one of the tributaries that we're actually walking distance to, but we're just within a few minutes of the actual lake by car.
That's wonderful. I love being on the water. I absolutely love it. This is the first time in a long, long time I haven't been living within a 5-minute walk of the water when I moved up the mountain here. So anyway, guys, thank you so very much, Terry. Well, I can't tell you enjoy your move, but it should be blessed and everything go well for you. And everybody that tuned in, thank you for listening. Thank you for being with us. And we'll see you on Wednesday at 8 o'clock New York time, 8 o'clock in the evening, New York time. So bless you all and see you then. Bye-bye. Let's see. Stop.